right. Mike Judd, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
This is really fun for me. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and to be able to have you on and bring you in, it's a pleasure.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, good. You mentioned that you're nervous, but you can't be, because then that'll make me nervous.
Well, yeah, I can't change how I feel, but I'll push through.
Mask
anyways.
it the best you can. You talked about before off camera when young people talk and you have them like write notes and kind of public speaking. What age are we talking for that?
Most of our summer staff are that are sharing. They're like 16, 17 to like 22. So pretty young. Yeah.
Kind of like the high school, college.
Yeah.
I remember doing public speaking classes like in college.
Yes.
And I thought that should have probably been done a little earlier. I know. In front of a professor and 100 students is not the place, but but this is great. For anybody who doesn't maybe know you or isn't familiar with you, can you just give them a brief synopsis of Mike Judd?
Mike Judd.
Because this is what everybody loves to do. Everybody loves to do like self-assessments and talk about themselves.
You're being sarcastic, right?
Very sarcastic.
It's like the last thing. I think I also told you that, I tell my staff to have notes when they share, because otherwise they'll either be 2 minutes and they'll be done, or some people don't stop talking about themselves. So I'm probably more on the first part of that.
Well, that's why I have a computer in front of me. It's all notes. But.
So I am Mike Judd. I'm married to Gina. We've been married actually this year 29 years.
Oh, wow.
And I have 2 kids, Caleb and Mackenzie. Caleb's a contractor in the area, and Mackenzie is just finishing up her schooling to be a teacher, and so excited to see where both of them go, and proud of them both. So I'm also the director at Beaver Camp, and I have been the executive director there since 2017. But this is my 30th year being on staff there. So I was the program director prior to that. So it's been a big part of my life. And I certainly love what I do there. I really enjoy the variety that I get. Days are, spent doing very different things, from interviewing staff to maybe some small repair project to creating a budget. Some of the things I enjoy more than others, but
of course.
but I definitely enjoy the variety, and just really am glad to be there. I feel like that's where God's called me, and I've felt that way since I first came in 1995. So.
Ancient history.
It is probably before you were born, right?
I was born in 91. So I was
okay. All right. Okay, that's good. That's good.
So the timelines there with when you started and when you were married, pretty close.
Yeah. So I came up here, honestly, when the camp board hired me. They were looking for a 3-year commitment, and I really, in my head, thought probably 3 years. My family all lives in South Carolina, so I was kind of coming out from where they are, and coming away from those relationships and connections. And so, I was thinking 3 years. But in that 3-year window, God just kind of reaffirmed the direction I was going in, and I met Gina. They weren't necessarily connected, but also, we got married and started a family, and just felt like this was really where we should be.
Right.
So actually, Gina and I meeting, there's a bit of a family story there with your Uncle Kurt was pretty involved. Imagine that, right?
He was working there at the time?
So Kurt would work at camp just part-time here and there. He wasn't working full-time. He would just come and help out on the challenge course. And it was the first year I was working at camp. And one fall day he came in. And, I think he had asked me before, and, are you dating anybody? I said no. And he came in and threw a picture on my desk, and it was a picture of Gina, like our high school graduation photo,
No way.
And he's like, you got a picture of you? And all I had was like a family picture, like my brothers and I. So he took that. And so your dad and him and some other guys used to meet for like coffee at Sherwin-Williams. And also Gina was working with her brother at the time right next door for Service Master. They owned a franchise.
Yeah, that's right.
And so her brother was involved in it too. So I think he's the one that got the picture of Gina. And so I don't know, sat on that for a little while. And then about a month later, she had brought a youth group up to camp to do the challenge course. And we had some younger staff that were working kind of leading her group, but they needed somebody more higher trained to be up on the tower. And so I was on top of the tower, and we literally met on top of the Beaver Camp climbing tower.
No way.
In the fall of 1995. And we dated for a while, got engaged in 96, and then married in 1997.
Wow. Okay, well, this is like up Uncle Kurt's alley. That's not the first or last time, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is he's quite the matchmaker.
Yeah. It's funny. We're talking like early 90s, right?
Right. So 95.
So there's no like, here, check her picture out on a phone.
Oh no.
Not even close.
And even after that, it was like we met on the tower and at camp, and it was like a month or two later. I kept on trying to find a way to inconspicuously like be walking down the street and stop in at the office to say hi and ask her out. And actually, I used to get my hair cut, which is hard to believe now looking at me, but somewhere right around there.
I'm on my way.
I think that whole block kind of that burned down years ago, so it's not there anymore.
Right.
But
right downtown, you mean?
Yeah, right downtown.
That's
and
right.
So I scheduled a haircut at least once, to be kind of like, this can be, I'm in the neighborhood, and but eventually I got nerve to stop in and ask her out. And
good for you.
The rest is history, I guess. So.
What was that feeling like when you were walking in there? Way more nervous than this podcast, I promise.
Probably the same level. Yes. Okay. I mean, definitely in the same.
Isn't that
definitely
funny?
Nervous. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you kind of take that step. You don't know. Like there's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
Is she interested?
Yeah.
Is this going to go well? Am I going to sound like a bozo?
Right.
I know. I think when I met Stephanie, I felt the same way. I'm like, just like you can feel every heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's just
like,
something about it. It's because if your heart is in the right place, that's a pretty big moment.
Right.
Like if you're not just dating for the fun of it and stuff, if your intentions are true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned Beaver Camp. Can you explain Beaver Camp for me?
Yeah. So we're a youth camp about 20 miles east of here. Actually, I drive near your house every day.
Yep.
Never come down this road. I think the only time I've come down, well, not the only time, but most recently was when we had all the flooding a couple years ago. This was like the only way out. I think we
got a lot of traffic during that time through here.
Yeah. So we're a youth camp. That's our primary purpose. Serving kids 6 to 18 years old. Mostly resident camps, day camps. We have 1 week a day camp, and then we do some winter camps as well. But then we're open year round, not just with winter youth camps, but family weekends and women's retreats, scrapbook retreats, things like that. And then we also are open for groups to come up and do a family reunion and that sort of thing. So much busier summer season than it is this time of year. But this is a great time for all the staff that are there to just kind of do some office work and planning for the summer ahead. And right now we're in hiring season, so if anybody's listening that's looking to minister, serve kids during the summer, we're looking for folks, but doing a lot of reference checks and background checks and interviewing this time of year.
I would imagine that is all pretty important, especially when you're working with children and stuff like that.
So absolutely, yeah. Just doing, it's not just assuming that somebody is a good person to work with kids, but following up with references, talking to them, doing background, the official background checks and doing the interview. We depend heavily on our junior counselor program, which is TLT, Teen Leadership Training, primarily for that reason. Like we get a chance to get to know kids when they're 16, 17. They come in for just a couple of weeks during the summer. We kind of get to know them. They get to know us, and then we work with them for a couple of years. And then with the idea that when they graduate, they'll be able to work at least a summer or two while they're in college or before they enter the career.
That way you kind of get to know them and see them in action and get to get a good grip of who their character is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's very outdoors. A lot of it's old cabin style. If you would, I kind of relate it sometimes to like the old Parent Trap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The old one when they're all at the camp.
Yeah.
It kind of gives me like that feel. which has obviously been more modernized, lately and stuff like that.
Right.
But when I was growing up and going there, there's something so nostalgic about Beaver Camp and so special. And was that something that you felt like all the way through? Like it still kind of has that same feel of the very first time you went there?
Yeah. I mean, I think you sometimes can lose track of that or lose sight of that, as you work in the office. And I've always tried to be very intentional with trying to get out, even during summer camp. Like I find that very important, like at least a little bit each day, get out and do something with people, jump in, an all camp game or something like that. Just to kind of get to remember what it's like, and also to see our staff in action, kind of see them, because it's too easy to get locked away in your office, and that's not important, or that's just not good to do in any organization. So, but yeah, it's still, I try to, even this time of year, like I'll try to get out and cross country ski. I love to cross country ski.
Okay.
And we try to keep our trails kind of packed down for camps and also for people to come in and enjoy the day, skiing. And so I'll try to get out and, I spend time praying and thinking about plans. Sometimes you sit in front of the computer for too long. It's like, I gotta get out and gotta do something active.
And something quiet, something with just you and your thoughts.
Yeah.
Evan Jennings was just on, actually released today, Wednesday, January 21st. And he was talking about how we're losing curiosity, like with AI and technology and all of these things. It seems like we're losing that bit of us and just the power of quiet.
Yeah, it's just so important. And I think just being outdoors too. And I think as a society, we've just kind of, we're pushing a breaking point, or we have hit that breaking point where it's like people have got to take time to step back and just reconnect, I think, with God, and God speaks through the world around us, through what he created, but also through other people. It's just really important to do that. Yeah.
Disconnect a little bit.
Yeah.
Unplug.
Yeah.
Touch grass.
And at camp, we've always had that, pretty hard rule, like no technology. And it's, for the most part, it's pretty easy because you can't connect out there. There's no cell coverage. But that's changing, and we have Wi-Fi too. So we keep that all locked up, password protected. But sometimes people kind of, they somehow find the password. But we've always had that rule and we won't budge on that. But it's just so important for kids. And I think as a society, more people recognize it. Like I've had more staff in the last 3 to 4 years that are like voluntarily, going back to a dumb phone. Like they just want a flip phone. Like
cool.
they're recognizing that they're, that this is not healthy in my life.
That is a very mature position to take.
Yeah.
Really mature.
Yeah. And it's good to see.
It would be cool to see a little bit of a pendulum swing back to that because we are so as we're talking right now, people are probably
we're surrounded by technology.
Technology everywhere. There's people watching on technology and listening on technology, and there's benefits to all of it, sure. But it is so easy to just get sucked in, and then hours go by, and you're like, well, what happened to the day? And that's not good for your psychology, you know. And
yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons we communicated with Messenger, and I've taken it off my phone because it's like a backdoor into Facebook, and I'm like, I don't want to be on there on my phone. It's just one more thing to pull me in, and just trying to put some barricades there to keep balance. And,
Do you find that parents that send their kids to Beaver Camp, that's kind of a part of it too? Like, hey, go connect. This is like an intentional move to go connect with other kids in nature where you have activities to do that are more tangible, more real.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but at the same time, they don't want to be completely disconnected from their kids. So we post pictures, and we do our best to get good pictures up every day and try to get every kid, on there. But man, if we don't, there's some that'll be like, where's my kid?
Everything okay?
Other times they'll be like, why is my child wearing the same shirt after 4 days?
Because sorry. That's being a kid.
We're trying to get them to at least go in the lake once a day.
Yeah, right. Man, that's cool. I think that the areas of life where you can, just like you said, get outside, breathe some good air, not recycled AC all the time. Yeah. Man, that's so beneficial, especially for kids. Like I wasn't really raised, like we said, I was born in 91. So I wasn't really raised in technology up until, the turn of the century, probably even a little bit after. Because my first cell phone, I think, was like 2000 and man, 8, and it was a flip phone, so and that's not the same thing as what we have now.
Right.
So kind of the internet, we didn't have internet at our house probably until I was 10. I don't know, 11.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine as kids now,
I agree.
there's no guardrails, and a lot of parents give them that stuff very, very early. So that must be like a detox.
Yeah. And as I think back to our parenting, and, we allowed our kids, I think, to have their technology too soon. If I could redo it, I would have had a much firmer, like, no, not before this age, whether it's 16, so at some point they do need to be able to communicate, but now, get a dumb phone, not a smartphone. They don't need all of that. But cause I know our daughter especially had shared how she just felt darkness sometimes, when she get into that like social media stuff and just comparison and, it's not healthy.
And all the data's coming out.
Yeah.
Finally, we're getting data, especially for young girls and the way that they interact with people on the internet. And it's just, you got to be careful about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess it sounds like you dealt with this too, but especially my generation, like we're really having to figure out screen time and like what the cost benefit analysis is to all of that stuff. And, and that's never been done before. Not really, so it's kind of new waters.
Yeah, it is new. I mean, we didn't, we had video, we had VCR tapes for our kids.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't count, I know. But sometimes you need a little break from, whatever, and you put on some good video. But now it's like you put it on there and it could just go for hours and hours and hours, you know, and
on purpose. And that's how how these programs are designed for stimulus and attention and audience capture. And you're just, something parents need to guard against.
Absolutely. I encourage you to be courageous as a parent, as a father, to, guard that with your kids.
Flip phone idea is good. Like the minutes. That's what I had. The minutes phone. I could only use a certain amount of time. Okay. So tell me a little bit about Beaver Camp and like what you can do there.
Yeah. So as far as what a week of camp looks like, I mean, kids, it's a resident camp primarily. And it's very much counselor based, where you come in, you're assigned to a cabin and you have a counselor and a junior counselor or, some sort of support staff in there. So there's 2 staff in there. And the whole idea is to build a team as that cabin group. So you may be coming in, some kids come in with cabin mate requests, friends, but a lot of, there's certainly a number that come in with no real connection. Maybe somebody they know from last year, but not a good buddy. And so part of the counselor's job is just to really build that, that dynamic within the cabin group to just bond. And, we do that they'll spend time in the challenge course, working through challenges there. But just, everything that they do can be part of that, whether it's getting ready to go swimming or canoeing out on the lake. And that's, so a lot of outdoor activities. They're going to be outside. I would say probably 80 to 90% of the day they're outside, from the time you get up in the morning to, you have some early morning activities you can choose from, like polar bears or roadrunners. Or some other activities for the older camps. And, that's before breakfast. Then you got breakfast and personal devos. And that's often, if the weather's good, it's outside. And then all throughout the day, they're going to different activities, mostly with their counselor. We're a little different than some camps where the kid kind of picks and chooses, out of 15 things to do that day. They decide their schedule. Whereas a Beaver Camp, like you're going through with your cabin group, pretty much throughout the day, with the exception of like teen camp. We do a lot more choice, for the oldest group. What is
the reason for that?
We see that dynamic, within the cabin group. Like that's the real value is like, if you spend the day, and you could argue this both ways, but if you spend the day doing things with other people throughout camp, you get to know a lot more people. But maybe you don't have to really push through, and really bond with that group. There's the Tuckman stages of group development, like you form, you storm, perform, and norm. So if you skip that storming stage, you don't really grow. And our motto is a place to grow. So we want kids to grow. We want staff to grow. And so that's part of the reasoning.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I figured that was probably the basis was that look, you're going to be outside your comfort zone a little bit. And guess what? That's the best place to bond and grow. Right. The zone of proximal development, I think, is what it's associated with. Yeah. And it's like when you're just a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not too far away. Yeah. You really start to develop super fast. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Okay. I knew that was how it was structured, but I didn't know why. I had my thoughts and I think I got it. Okay. So then mostly they're walking around with, their core group and then interacting with other cabins. Okay.
Yep. So they'll, during the day, they do different activities. They're assigned, with their cabin group, whether swimming, rec, challenge course, cabin time. And then in the evening, we do a lot more all camp groups, activities. So there'll be all camp swim, all camp game. There'll be some sort of like, especially older kids, more epic type, capture the flag or Wells Fargo or something like that. And then we always wrap out the day with, we have fireside. So we have a pastor that's in for the week. Our staff lead songs and do a skit. And then the final part of the day, which is really important, and we stress this with our counselors, that cabin devos. So it's kind of like just a quick wrap up of the day. It could be debriefing, something that the pastor said or something that happened that day, maybe with the cabin group. Like, hey, let's talk a little more about this. And usually it's spiritually focused. Bring it back to Jesus and their personal relationship with Him. And then they go to bed and start the day again. So,
wow. A lot of outdoor focus. Was that something, okay, now that I just want to get a quick idea for what the challenge course is. I don't know if a lot of people would really understand that part of camp.
Right. Yeah. So, it's split into we split it in two different categories. There's team building, which could be, group initiatives or low elements. Group initiatives are more like, challenges that might be a little more mental, like I'm trying to think of a good example, but it may not be on a fixed element, whereas we have low elements, which are like the Treasure Island or Mohawk Walk or something like that, where there's cables. They're all low, but there's some sort of challenge to get through. So that's a lot more building the team. You get into that storm, stage really quick sometimes with groups.
Figure out an objective together.
Yeah,
as
and then
strangers.
you get upset at each other, like, no, you're not listening to me, or you're not doing what I want to do, and I think this is the best way to do it. And then the other part is high elements. So that's like the zip line, the giant swing, the tower, and that's much more. Those activities are much more like personal. Like you set a goal, like I want to climb, I want to do the whole element, or I just want to climb to the top of the ladder. But it's really about you kind of, setting your goal a little bit more internal focused. So team building, low elements is outward focused as a group, and the high elements is more team. We have some elements that require a team, like the Dangle Duo is a 2-person thing. Vertical Playpen is another one like that. That's 2-person. We have lily pads, which is the whole group, but mostly it's about the person setting goals personally and accomplishing them.
Is that unique to Beaver Camp, or is that?
No. I mean, we adopted it, or we installed the challenge course like in the mid 80s, which I think we were kind of on the cutting edge, or, at the early stage of that. Yep. But no, this is something far outside of camp. There's places like Project Adventure that they've been at this for decades and decades longer than us, that are much more less camp focused and more just take a group through. And that's another side thing with our challenge course. Like we're open to groups coming in and using it. So we'll get a lot of school groups, not a whole lot of corporate groups. We'd like to get more of that, like just bring your staff in and because it can be really valuable. And it doesn't have to be the high part. Like it can just be those group initiatives where people are just working together. They're on the ground. If they have different, physical abilities, it's not a big deal. They can still gain from it.
I love the inward part too of the, kind of the more individualized high stake stuff, the high elements. Yeah. Because really, if you're going down the zip line by yourself, it's kind of a you thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people can cheer you on, but at the end of the day, it's you getting over that fear, and it's high up there.
It is high up there.
And then you've got to jump off a platform, which is so foreign to everybody. Right. I think the group atmosphere too is so valuable, because in a corporate setting, you need communication. You need sometimes to know when to not, know when to back off a little bit, know when to push. You can see how people react in the middle of a task, but also how they handle stress and pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that would be very valuable. Maybe I'll have to get my team on there.
Yeah. And I mean, because that's a big part of it. Like you do the activity, but then we call it debriefing. Like you take a little time, the facilitator will ask some questions, like trying to pull that out of the group to be like, and then hopefully transfer it to actually where they work. Like, this is wait a minute, we did this over here. This was kind of fun and goofy, but I see how it applies over here.
Yeah.
I
can't remember which element it was. I think it was the zip line where Calder was in the younger group. This would have been for teen camp, I think. Bears and beavers.
Bears and beavers.
That's right before teen camp.
That's for younger kids, and then teen camp is kind of its own thing. Yeah.
And I remember going real slow all the way up and kind of being cautious and taking my time. And Calder was like, whoop.
He just went.
He just took off. I know. So, the kids are very different.
They are.
I think with the team building stuff too, like kids will tell you what they feel. They're not so worried about societal pressures as much.
Right.
And they will.
Right.
They kind of, it's a good skill to have for kids.
It is. And we try to emphasize that, like we stress, like it's challenge by choice. It's your challenge, your choice. Like you don't, some of you, it'll be a challenge just to get to the top of the ladder, which is like 8 feet. For the rest of you, it'll be like, Calder, just they're flying through the whole thing, and everybody's different. And it's important that they set that goal and figure out what their challenge is. And,
well, that'll set them up for stuff. It's like you said, it's building blocks for real world issues, and they will learn through these experiences on how to deal with hard things in life, because life is very difficult and it's going to throw you all kinds of challenges. So how you respond and where you are as a person in your development will determine kind of most of the time how you come through those things.
Yeah. And also like the need for community in life. Like, that's, if you're a cabin group, whether it's your cabin group or your peers, work peers or school peers coming to do the challenge course, like how critical it is to have a community around you as you face those challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's rewind.
Okay.
And let's go way back to Mike Judd as a child.
Oh man.
Can you tell us about the man sitting across from me and what growing up was like?
Oh yeah. So I have this, I got to say this, but, so I have this photo of it was my high school ID, which I grew up here in New York. I think I was maybe 2 when my parents moved here, lived just down the road on the Erie Canal Road. My dad was the physical therapist at Lowell Hospital. And so we weren't native to this area. So then fast forward to like mid 80s, I moved to South Carolina. My dad got a job down there, and I had a high school ID in 10th grade, and I look, no joke, like Napoleon Dynamite. So if that tells you anything about,
what's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'll be proud of that. Yeah. So I had a good childhood. I have 4 older brothers. So in my view, I feel like I spent a little more time in the emergency room than my brothers did.
Of course.
Being the youngest, one time my brother had, he shot me with a BB gun, and we were like, Westerns were a big thing back then. So we were playing fast draw.
Was it the Rough Rider BB gun?
No, it was a pistol. So we were pretending we were fast drawing. I had a cap gun, he had a BB gun.
It seems fair.
He told me it was an accident. I think I was an adult when I realized that wasn't an accident. He just said that.
You have to load the BB. Like
you intended to shoot me, but yeah, it was a good childhood. I've got great brothers, and my parents, just really appreciate them. My dad actually just passed away about a month ago, and so I've been reflecting a little bit on things and things he said and how he lived, and I just appreciate my parents. They were not perfect, but my dad especially, he was not a flashy out front person. He, who you saw in public was who he was at home, which, as I got older, I really valued that. I was like, just because I saw that wasn't the case in everybody's life. And so that was definitely an anchor for me. I'm very grateful for my childhood. So I moved to South Carolina, and my mom had actually counseled at camp. She was in the mid 70s. They used to take volunteers for the week. I don't know how and why she did it. She had 5 boys at home, and she went and spent a week counseling girls
in New York.
In New York, yeah, here at Beaver Camp. Yeah, so that was our connection to Beaver Camp. And then my brothers went to camp, and then I went and loved it. And that was kind of the connection there. I started coming back up to work. I came back up to attend camp once when I was in high school, and then I came and worked as a maintenance assistant. And just a really, our motto is a place to grow, and that was the case for me. Like I just, I found opportunity to grow and to become more confident and given opportunities. The leadership at camp had really helped me in that. So, and then came back for a few years, and then somewhere in there felt like, maybe this is something I should do more than just, this in the summer. I was a student at Clemson University, planning to go into forestry. I'd actually just transferred in there. And midsummer, I was like, Mom, I think I want to switch. I think I want to switch to do something else there to kind of prepare me to be involved in camp as something more than just something I do in the summer. So,
how important is that for especially kids to learn what they want to do? Because I think that we're getting to a place where kids are getting all up in college and then even through college and being like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And you're like, well, first of all, pretty expensive mistake there. Yeah. And second of all, how are we not facilitating that in young people to get a better idea for their giftings, for what they love to do? Right. Maybe internships and partnerships with different companies, or you're interested. Yeah. Tyson, my brother, now owns a big mechanic shop. Right. But when he was growing up, he had kind of had an interest in mechanics. Yeah. So my parents set him up with a local mechanic and said, "Go, go see if that's what you want to do." Yeah. I'm like, man, that's so valuable. And a plug for homeschooling would be he had the freedom and the time to be able to do that. Yep. His curriculum was done. He was able in the afternoons to go and kind of be a mentee at a place. And then you get to learn. We are losing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're starting to see a shift. I know as my kids, so Mackenzie's 25 and Caleb's 23. So from her to Caleb, now Caleb graduated in COVID, so it was a little different. But, for Mackenzie, the school was definitely, public schooling was like college is the only way. Like there was, whether they were truly intentional about that or not, but that was the message that was shared. And, for most people who work at the school, that was the way, they had to get a degree to work there. But whereas in Caleb's generation, I saw a shift there, and I think it's been a good shift. Mm-hmm. And I actually think school has recognized that too. Like BOCES their program is, just exploding with people that are interested in taking what they offer. And so I do see a healthy shift. I think it's awesome that your brother had a chance to do that, before it was.
Well, Patrick Harney, the same thing. Yeah. So Patrick was also homeschooled, and that's not exclusive to homeschooling. I mean, parents who are really focused on what their kids love to do and help facilitate that without being too pushy is the sweet spot. And Patrick Harney loved flying, loved airplanes, the whole thing. Right. Set him up with do flows. Yeah. And as he was growing up, and if this is something you want to pursue, go see what it's actually like in practical application in the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's a big push, statewide. I don't always agree with what New York State does, but there's a push to push kids out to internships and to do that sort of thing, even the public school setting. So that's exciting. I think that's a good change. Yeah.
And toward the trades too.
Yeah.
Like
towards the trades.
Because we're going to be in trouble. Yeah. We're going to be in trouble in a generation if we don't get that under control too.
And I think back to my story. I don't know. Okay, so I spent a summer working building pole barns in South Carolina, 100-degree weather, dying out there. And I wasn't for sure that I really wanted to go to college right away. And but spending a summer, I was like, no, I definitely want to go to college. But I didn't know what I wanted to do for sure. I had the general idea of forestry, but it didn't cost me. I think my whole college experience, I came out with it was like $10,000. It was not. Now I commuted and I did some things to stay cheap, but you can't. Nowadays, if you go away, I mean, it's $30,000 to $40,000 a year at
minimum.
Least. Yeah, and that's an expensive mistake. And then you walk away with $100,000 and a degree in something that isn't that valuable. I think higher education has a crisis that they're in right now, and it's going to continue, I think, for a while before it kind of comes back to be grounded.
Yeah. I think we've had this discussion before on here about how like my generation was just burdened down by student loan debt, and some ridiculous percentage doesn't use their degree at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's sort of subjective because you learn thinking skills and writing, and like there's research maybe, and like you can learn some good skills, but are not using that degree for what the field that they're in. And it's a very high percentage. And you're like, man, we came out with, I don't know what the average probably is, $50,000-$60,000 in debt. And then for what?
I know.
So now I think in the next generation, like my kids, we're going to be very cautious and smart about that. And junior colleges and state schools and, so.
Yeah. I feel like a while back, it was all about the college experience. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the college experience is necessarily that great, and so whether or not you use your degree, is said, well, just go for that experience. But I think your generation of parents realizes that, and I think going away, if you're not 100% sure of what you want to do, serve somewhere, like go, do a year doing something that's not education, but is adding value to people around you.
Yeah.
Like that
would be really great too. If right after high school, like you had to have a year of like service to third world country, something like that, like a missions trip, or like some kind of public service, or something like that would be so good for society. I think.
Like I think it's valuable to get away from home. I think there is that. When you talk about the college experience, that is good. But not necessarily in the college environment. But but yeah, I think because you need to step out from home to start maturing, and you should really start to be like, okay, this is where my parents are, but where am I? And I think that's important. It's it's going to happen at some point, for everybody. But yeah.
So you were able to kind of get that idea from coming to camp, being like, okay, this is kind of where I want to go. And what is forestry exactly? Like, what exactly would you do?
Well, I never actually got in the program. I did all the legwork ahead of time. I was in a community college and did all the sciences and everything. But I was thinking, maybe, working for the DEC or,
a ranger or something.
Yeah, something along that line.
Yep.
Probably less a ranger. They're a little more of a police officer than I was thinking.
So more conservation.
Yeah, more of a conservationist. Okay. Yeah. So, so I knew I wanted to be outside. I knew I wanted to do something like that, but I didn't know where exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Did you always have that feeling about being outside, being an outdoorsman?
Yeah. I wish I still had it, but in 8th grade, we had to do a research project on the career we wanted to do. And that's where the forestry idea came from. I remember, I think I had seen some movies that had these forest rangers up in fire towers. I thought that would be awesome, to be living out there alone and totally unrealistic. But that was, so I always had this idea that I'd do something outside.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew I was an okay student, but it wasn't my thing, I necessarily, certainly when I set my mind to it, it was fine, but I didn't thrive there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you also decided that not only did you love the outdoors, did you love Beaver Camp, that this was going to be a shift from schooling to kind of practical daily operations.
Yeah.
So, and then did you move by yourself back up here?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. In January of 1995 in a snowstorm, I knew some people up here that they had a place I could rent with them. And, so I moved with them and like I said, I thought maybe 3 years, and then move on, not necessarily move out of what I was doing, but doing not necessarily at Beaver Camp. And, but here we are. 30,
and then your hooks are in
31 years later.
31
actually.
years.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Funny how life does that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, before you know it, I'm 53. In my mind, it's still, I'm in my 20s, but
50 is the new 20.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Used to be so old in my mind.
50.
Yeah. And now it's no, the 80's old.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh man. When I moved, I had the same idea when I moved to Connecticut for work. Mm-hmm. So I went down for my policing work down there, and I thought, this is going to be my new place. I would have never thought. In the back of my mind, I was always like, man, I love Lewis County. I love the atmosphere, the community. Obviously my family's here, and it would be great to raise kids here. But I never thought it would actually happen.
Yeah.
And then just to see how everything kind of moves and rotates, and you look back at your life and it almost looks like it was supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, even the hard things you kind of learn through.
Right. Yeah.
What was it hard to leave family?
No, I mean, I was pretty like secure in my relationship with them. Like it wasn't, you know, I was ready to do something different.
Yeah.
I'm ready to kind of stretch. But again, I think the 3-year commitment was kind of the safety. Like, you know, I can always, you know, I'm just gonna do this for 3 years, and then and then
it's like a safety net. Kind of like comfort in your head.
Yeah.
And you can always come back. The truth is like,
yeah. So
you see a lot of young men in particular kind of failing to launch these days. And I wonder, it sounds like at some point in a young man's growing up, he has to kind of venture and start looking for adventure and what he wants to do. And I think that a lot of it is just the ecosystem that we're in with, like we talked about, technology and a few different other vices and stuff like that, accessibility to drugs and whatever. And it's just like, then keeps you in that basement, so to speak. And then it's just like a downward cycle because it starts to, Did you ever, I mean, obviously you were able to kind of get out of that. Right. But did you ever feel a point like, I need to get out of here?
You know, my relationship with my parents was great. I mean, so I didn't feel like they were pushing me out. There was definitely that sense of like, I need to be on my own. I need to be productive. I need to be working. I need to be doing, I need to be doing, you know, doing. And I think that's so important. I've been reading a little bit about, you know, work and what, you know, the balance of work and life. And I just was reading how, the Hebrew word for work is the same as serve and the same as worship. And like how, you know, sometimes we think work is bad and it can get out of whack, you know, and I think God sets up a great, you know, a ratio of like you work for 6 days and you rest for 1, you know, and that balance is a great thing to keep in mind. But how, you know, whatever we're doing, it's adding value to people around us, even if it's on a factory line or, you know, I mean, and we're working for the Lord, not just for people. But I don't know, I've just been thinking a little bit more about that. But I do think it's important for young men to get out and be, you know, stretched. You know, I don't know if it was on here I heard this, but somebody was talking about it's so hard to ask people out, you know, like dating and whatnot. Because you ask somebody out and like within a few minutes, like everybody knows that you've asked this person. Like that's a lot of pressure. Like, you know, I think of my hesitation of asking Gina out, like it was just between me and it was just in my head, you know, it wasn't, nobody else knew about it. Right. You know? And even after we went out, like besides your family. So yeah.
And a lot of people will stay together like longer than they want to for that like reason. Like they don't want to let people down or they, you know, like there's a lot of those weird pressures in there where, or if there's a breakup, it's like even that much worse because of what other people are going to think. Like, oh, I'm a failure or I'm, you know, I can't handle relationships, whatever it is. And some of that is just so toxic.
Yeah, it is. It's not, especially, you know, developmentally, like, you know, the mind doesn't fully wire until you're like 25. And so you have all that influence of technology before then. I mean, as we talked earlier, statistics are starting to really show that that's really destructive.
I hope we learn from those things. I hope that once that stuff comes out, it's not politicized. We can kind of get around it and start to make some changes.
Agree.
Ultimately, we want autonomy and purpose and meaning. And that's how you kind of get yourself out of that space of feeling unproductive.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's interesting. I really do think a lot of it's, you know, that purpose is found in work. And I'm not, you know, I think you got to keep it in balance, but it's really important that you have work that
something
you're doing.
To aim for.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see, where are we at? So we are at, you have moved up here, started your 3 years, met your wife. What year after you moved up here did you meet her? Was it a couple of years in?
Yes. Well, actually, I met her within the first year, actually. So I moved up here in 95 in January, and we met, I think, in October and went out to, it wasn't even, what was the place? Country Bob's.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah.
Man, talk dinner. About a place.
Yeah.
Wow. That brought back a lot of memories just then.
That was like late. It might have been the first. No, it was before Christmas, like in that November to Christmas time frame.
Yeah. Country Bob's was popping back
It was,
then.
yeah.
That was the place.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like when you see in the 70s, 80s, like those old drive-ins, like cars, and it kind of had that feel. Yep. And they stuck around for a good bit.
Yeah. Actually, our date involved, this is crazy to think about. We actually rolled your uncle's house like with toilet paper. Like,
oh, no way.
And that was our activity. And then we went out to eat.
That was a thank you for setting us up. And then
kind of. Yep.
That's awesome. I hear so many like fun stories like that from like my dad's generation where they're, the night before a groom's wedding, they like steal him.
Oh yeah, they were crazy.
There's some crazy stuff going on. Why don't we do that anymore? I'm going to start it. I'm going to start doing that. Just kidnapping the groom.
I don't know. Nowadays you might have some unexpected and not so good
the SWAT
repercussions.
breaks down your door.
Yeah. But even there's a young kid that works for us, and his brother got married a couple of years ago, and he wired. What did he do? He wired the brakes on his brother's car. Did the horn go off when he hit the brakes or something crazy and creative and awesome. Fun,
right? Like, and harmless.
And harmless. That's the thing. Like sometimes
you said
pranks,
wired brakes, and I was like,
no, something where when he hit the brakes, it also. I'm pretty sure I have that right.
What a cool thing! Yeah. We got to get back to that. It's hard. Like right now, me and my friend group that we grew up all the way up through together. The Paul Poddingtons and the Martin boys and the Harneys and all of us and the Chrismans, we all have a bunch of kids, and it makes it it's great to be in this season. And I really love this season, especially with my family, but I do miss a little bit of that same connection with the guys, and I think it's important, and I'm going to be trying to be more intentional with getting together with them and kind of feeling that, because if you don't have those connections and those relationships, you're not going to do the fun. Like they're not going to do that with somebody you kind of cursory, them cursory, knowledge of.
Yeah.
But that's so cool.
Yeah. It's hard, because, once you're bringing wires, it's like there is some common sense. It's like, wait a minute, no, this is, which is good. You don't just kidnap somebody, but maybe, but you get busy and it's good to maintain those friendships in that stage. I'm not sure I always did that well, because you become so consumed with everything that's going on with your kids. And
life moves fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. It really
does.
And
your priorities shift all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is amazing to watch that happen in real time.
Yeah.
And there's only so many hours in the day. And you're one person.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So then, how long until you? So you were at Beaver Camp, and then you got married. Sounds like a couple years after you met, right?
Yep.
So
it was 97 we got married, so it's 2 years after.
Okay, 2 years. All right, good. And what was that process like?
Getting married? It was good. I was so nervous, probably almost as nervous as being on this podcast. But we went out to eat at the Cracker Barrel, and I had this,
again.
Yeah. I had this ring in my pocket the whole time. It was burning a hole in my pocket. Like I just, I just waited till we got home and got to her place, and then got a knee on my knee and asked her to marry me. And, it's, I appreciate Gina so much. She's, we're very opposite. If you've ever met her, she's a lot more outgoing, probably a lot more blunt than I am. So I feel like we balance each other well, and that's good. It's been a good. We make a good team, and we're very grateful for her. So, as our kids get older, and she said this much, oftentimes like, this is the one relationship, and I think her dad told her like the marriage relationship is the one that's meant to last, to your death. You're always going to be a parent. You're always a child, but this is the one that really matters. And so,
that is something that I've learned throughout the course of this podcast was that just keeps getting said over and over and over. And when that happens, I really try to pay attention and be like, okay, well, what is that about? And our culture is not marriage first. It's the kids. Like it's the kids, the kids. And that's all you ever hear about. And then when the kids are gone, that relationship's hollow. With your spouse. And then you see divorce rates after the kids leave. And you're just like,
absolutely.
You have to keep that first.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen that where, they kind of hold it together, until the kids are out of the house, and then it's not. So,
which is such a bad cycle.
Yeah. I can't say I've always done it well, as far as prioritizing our relationship, but you keep learning, you keep growing.
Thankfully there's grace for all of
that. Absolutely.
And hopefully that, your spouse is gracious with that too.
Yes.
It is easy with the speed of life, with what we do, to kind of neglect your marriage. And you have to constantly be thinking about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And how do I make sure that is so strong?
Yeah.
Everything else is not as foundational after that. It's all offsprings from your marriage.
Right.
You mentioned that it was 2 years. Okay. So then you were in a Cracker Barrel, but you didn't do it there. Probably smart move.
I was nervous.
Smart move.
I was like, yeah.
My dad proposed to my mom in a Pizza Hut.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. I love that story. I thought that's where you were going with that. And then right there under the rusty farm equipment in romantic fashion.
And then I learned she hates Cracker Barrel. That's not her favorite place to be. I think that was a couple years
almost
before I realized that.
Yeah. And our generation is it has to be this amazing thing.
Yeah, I know. Now you got to stage it with a photographer in the background. I'm so glad. The only photo we took was the old engagement photo for putting in the paper, and it was a formal thing at Urbaniacs. So much easier.
Oh man. What is the biggest thing you've learned from marriage, if you had to pinpoint it?
Well, I think prioritizing the relationship, and despite everything that's going on with kids and family and work and whatever, just remembering this is that relationship that's gonna last far beyond, till we die. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. And trying to be observant. My wife is always telling me, you just gotta, be more observant of even just the little things, opening the door and just being aware of, her being right behind me, making sure I stop and let her in first. Those little things go a long ways. And being intentional, if there's something going on, some we're disconnected in some way, just being intentional to try and talk that through and push through it, not ignore it,
right?
Not go to bed angry. Can't say we always did that. I feel like we've, haven't done it perfectly, but you keep coming back and keep, I feel like it's so much in life. It's long obedience in the same direction as somebody else is saying. But I think that's whether faith, marriage, you just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Not everything is a final exam. It's more it's just a lifelong study.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that you were there for 3 years. It sounds like you got married right at the end of that 3 years, almost. And so it was kind of I guess you're staying here.
Yeah, I don't even know that I really thought it through. It just the thought didn't come up anymore. In my mind, of doing something different. It was more just kind of settling in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long until you were parents?
97. Mackenzie was born in 2000 and Caleb 2002. So it was a few years. Yeah.
Wow. I remember seeing for the first time on an ID when I was working. This is 2016, because the driving age would have been 16 if you were born in 2000. And I remember seeing the 2000 on the ID and being like, what? That's not right. Okay. So then what, you have two, a boy and a girl.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
What are the biggest difference between parenting boys and parenting girls?
Oh man.
That they're not the same.
They're not the same. And I would say we can only compare to having a boy and girl, but I feel like every kid is different.
Right.
I'm sure my parents would tell you how different I was from, my older brothers. I don't know. They're very different kids, very different. They're not kids, very different people. What they're passionate about. Personality is very different. So I don't know if it's a difference by gender. I think it's just by kid,
sure.
And I don't know that we always understood that, always really, took that in consideration, whether we were disciplining or however we're interacting with them, as well as we should have. But they were very different, and they are very different in good ways.
Yep. We talked recently on the podcast about societal, but not just that, generational differences in parenting, and how it seems like maybe it's just because we have the time to do it. The world is a little bit different place. we're so much more, there's so much more connectivity to be a little bit more like focused on parenting, something like in a deeper way. Like when my dad was raised, it was kind of like there was just really hard gender roles, and it was like just there's so much expectation, and this is how you do things, and the communication side of it wasn't really there so much. Is that something you saw?
Yeah, I mean, compared to my childhood, my dad, I knew my parents loved me, and but I don't know if it's verbalized too much. So I was, very verbal about that. I hope, I think my kids understood I love them, but not just in the, speaking it, but showing it. I think, I remember it was rare that I think my dad came to some track meets, but they weren't at every event that I went to as a kid. Whereas we were very intentional as parents, like we're going to be there. Like this is a big thing, and I think there's some, maybe that wasn't so healthy too. Like, maybe I'm, focusing too much on how it makes, I'm proud of my kid for playing basketball or track or hockey or whatever it is, and, but at the same time, I value, I can remember when Caleb played hockey, like just, they needed extra bodies on the hockey horse. So I volunteered as a coach, didn't know how to play, could barely skate, but I'm grateful for those experiences, of driving to and from games and, connecting. And so I think there's some good in that. I think, every generation is a little bit different, and we're certainly learning. I think technology is what's got things out of whack with our generation or this generation, but like we said earlier, I think we're coming back on that. So.
Yeah, it's like information overload sometimes.
Yeah.
And how do you sift through that and kind of find your own way, your own parenting path.
Yeah.
And seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear people be like, this is the way you do it. And there's no other deviation from that. It's like, no, it's really not how it works.
I think you got to do your best to learn and just recognize every kid's different and you're different than the person sharing that. And I think there's some overarching principles, but
definitely.
But yeah, the specifics. There's a lot of grace and a lot of variability.
We talked about Jordan Peterson a little bit because we were talking about personality tests before we started recording, and he has a thing that he's talking about. You don't compare yourself to who somebody else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, because the variables are relatively the same.
Yeah.
There's no better comparison as far as what affects you, what you're going through, your environment, your personality, your temperament, your situations that you're in. It's completely separate from somebody else. Like that doesn't, there's no real good comparison there. If you want to make it as streamlined and as accurate as possible, you yesterday, what was I yesterday? Like there's a lot more common variables there.
Yeah. So definitely a place of grace that you put yourself into, mentally, like, when you make those comparisons. Yeah. But we're so like back to technology again. We're just constantly comparing. Right. Everybody's putting out there like what's their best them, the best selves. And that's what you're looking at. And
When you were parenting, how did you navigate allowing your children to make mistakes?
I don't know if we navigated it super well. I feel like as parents, maybe we were a little bit helicopterish parents, looking back on it. So I don't know that we let them fail as much as we probably should have. So I'm going to just say we didn't navigate it super well.
I think that's a hard thing. Because your natural instinct is to protect and comfort. Right? Especially from like the more nurturing side of whatever personality you have. It's not necessarily husband versus wife in that regard. Sometimes, men are very protective of their daughter, for example, and vice versa. So I think that, boy, I'm going to be navigating that in the next 10 years. So I'm trying to pick everybody's brain as they come through here.
You'll make mistakes and you'll learn from it, and your kids will turn out great. Don't put that pressure on you.
Like, right. It's not the pressure.
Yeah.
Another thing that was said on here was like, do you love your kids? I'm like, yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Well, that's like you're 90% of the way there. And then, you know, the application of the daily things aren't nearly as important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like, you know, even as I reflected on my dad's life, like it's just, I am sure like the things I remember now are just, it's not the negative or, you know, there's moments of discipline and, but I just remember, you know, he demonstrated a long obedience in the same direction. And that's what I took, much of what I took from his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not the goal isn't perfection. Right. The goal is growth. Right. And the more you see your life on a timeline of hopefully upward trajectory and there's pitfalls along the way, you know, but that's a good way to put it, because if you start having these ideals of how you're supposed to be, and like that can crush you pretty quick. Yeah. Especially as you've got all this, you know, comparing to what everybody else is putting out there. They've got the perfect family and the perfect, you know, they never encounter what we just encountered, you know, and yet the reality is they're encountering it. They're just doing a better job putting their best selves out there. Yeah. And you never know what people are going through. No. You know, like we think that we from the outside can tell what people are going through.
Yeah. No, you can't.
But, you know, when people are struggling with things, you would never know it. You know, we kind of superficially look at them and like, oh, well, they got a great car and a great house. And, you know, a healthy family. Absolutely. Well, they must be okay.
Yeah.
And not understanding the thoughts of that person, you know, possibly taking action into their own hands. It's just like, we need to start looking at people that way. I think for sure. Absolutely. I think that's how Jesus looked at people.
Absolutely.
And so, tell me a little bit, if you can, about your mom.
My mom. Yeah. So my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. Very, you know, I feel like, you know, she was the one that was constantly like giving life lessons of like, my dad's pretty quiet, you know, but she was the one that, you know, would be, you know, talking about scriptural truths, and I would see her praying more often, you know, and but yeah, just a wonderful lady. I mean, now she's just, you know, I feel like she's just in that golden era of life, and you know, she's burdened a lot for family and praying for them, and just, you know, day-to-day challenges. You know, she's 85, I think. But yeah, growing up, both my parents were steady. You know, my mom was always there. Like we never, you know, growing up, the common phrase was like a latchkey kid. You know, we were not that. You know, we were blessed where my dad could work and my mom could stay home, and we could make things work, and they could make things work financially. But she was very, I just really appreciate her inquisitiveness and just her compassion.
Mm. We talked about like, if you love your kids, you're 90% of the way there, you know?
Yeah.
But I honestly think that for kids to see that steadfast, secure nature is so valuable for development.
Yeah.
And the fact that was one of the first things that you said really is important, because I would like my kids to feel the same way. Like home was stable and loving and those are really good qualities. To pass on.
Yeah, and I think there's some evidence. I mean, attachment theory, like in counseling, like, you know, secure and insecure attachment, you know, and we've certainly learned more about that as adults. We do a marriage retreat at camp, and some friends of ours have hosted it, and they talk a lot about that in the marriage relationship. But we've also just realized that with the, you know, parent-child relationship, like just, you know, when people feel insecure, they start kind of backing off, and just how to process that and to reassure them in your secure connection to them.
Yeah. Also the kind of the balance between, you know, how do you facilitate them to venture off?
Yes.
Like that's a hard thing, especially for mothers. You know, we're basically, that's well established. Right. There's a part of the nurturing nature of mothers that doesn't want to relinquish that, I guess, caring, you know, outward love. And I've heard it said recently, like it's kind of the husband's job too, to step in and alleviate that and to start to pull that apart. And like that could be really difficult, I think. So that might be part of the reason why, you know, some of these people who are failing to launch too, like maybe that wasn't facilitated enough. It's very interesting.
I think there's other, you know, for a lot of people, financial pressures, you know, it's hard to kick out on your own now. And, you know, financially. So, I can understand some of that. I definitely don't want any kids, living in my basement when they're 35.
Right.
I don't think anybody does.
But you also don't want to send out your 18-year-old to just say, here's the world, go ahead, see you later. I'm not going to help you at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's a balance there.
It is.
I feel like you got some time yet with your kids.
Yes, I do.
To figure that out.
Yeah. But even now, like it's easy to see, my oldest is almost 4, and it's easy to see how like we have to start not doing that.
Yeah.
Like we need to have some autonomy space here so that she can go out and venture and grow on her own.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine if we hadn't been thinking about that. Right. And then she's 15. And you're like, well, now we have to start teaching her how to kind of, that would be difficult.
I feel like you guys are way ahead of where we were when we were at that stage with our kids. So
we hear that. I've heard that a few times. Yeah. Well, it's just because it's just information, connection, communication, like all of those things are probably a peak almost, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe
and we're seeing the result, or the negative, of that not happening. I feel like it's much more evident than it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me about your dad then.
So Dad, as I've said, just a faithful guy. He, like I said, he was a physical therapist all of his life. It was fun but just going through kind of writing up his obituary and just looking at records of where he's been. He was in the Army for a while. He went in after college, I think.
Okay.
As a physical therapist, but then he served in Korea as a crypto specialist. That's not the financial.
Not the new crypto.
Yeah, he was I guess on this whatever the spy ciphering
code
messages, code and that sort of thing, which I found interesting. He went in as a physical therapist, but he didn't do that I think until like the last couple months, and then he was he did a good job making just as I processed like him doing projects with us. There's 5 boys. I'm sure there's always stuff he wanted to do. And I think he found time to do a lot of the things that were, projects around the house, but he would involve us. I appreciate the familiarity with tools and just being able to, do small projects around the house. Like I remember him building tree houses with us, and he'd build them. We tear them down, rebuild them, but he was there and present for that. And building a pot stand, like a flower stand for my mom for Christmas one year. Like he would take time to do a special project like that. So I feel like my parents, maybe they didn't know everything that parents know nowadays, but they did a good job with the basics. And I feel blessed. My dad, he was up for Caleb's graduation in 2020. So it was the last time he came up here. We see him probably about once a year. We'll go down and visit. But very last minute, my mom and dad came up with one of my brothers in September. And one day he rode with me, actually up to camp. He wanted to walk around, and he rode with me, and my mom and brother came up separately. And the whole time up, when I talked to Gina later in the day, I was like, I felt like my dad was saying goodbye to me. This was in September. And just telling me how much he loved me, how much, he's proud of me. And I was like, yeah, I know, Dad, I love you too, and then we got word, it was in early December, he had a heart attack. And my brother first called, and said, they're doing CPR. I think we lost him, and I remember calling Gina. I was like, I just want one more conversation. She's like, well, you got a good conversation with him, and so just count that blessing. And so we had decided later that weekend, Saturday, that, that with consulting with the doctors, like he wasn't going to pull through. Like it was, he was on a ventilator, but he's not going to leave the ICU. So we had decided to take him off the ventilator, and made a last minute flight, to get down there Sunday morning. This was Saturday afternoon. We decided that, booked a flight, and my brother picked me up at the airport, got to his side, and 15 minutes later he passed away. And it was just, I didn't even know going into that, like how meaningful that would be. Like, I just consider that such a blessing. Like, my brothers don't share emotion, but we're all standing around, him and my mom, and, just crying. And it was good. I think I will go to my grave just valuing that experience, and just very grateful.
The legacy of a father is something that sons in particular relate heavily to. A lot of stuff that I guess that fathers teach, especially the more stoic kind of personalities, which it sounds like probably he was, just a little bit more reserved, but the value of what was caught and not necessarily taught in words was taught.
Right.
And that's going to last forever.
Yeah. So hopefully that takes the pressure off young dads like you, that you'll be like, you know what, I just need to focus on the majors, give them time, but I don't have to say all the right things, or do all the right things.
Right.
But,
yeah, exactly.
They're going to catch a lot. Yeah.
Especially with, another big thing is modeling behavior, modeling, what godly principles are in a man and a husband and a father. But like the truth is like you said, the grace to be able to make mistakes, realize those mistakes, move forward is the goal versus perfection. And then beating yourself up when you're not perfect. Right. Wow. Yeah. That sounds like a difficult thing. I didn't even know you were going through that. Sorry.
Oh, thanks. It's got it. Like I said, I just feel blessed in all of it and very grateful. I
bet that looking back, that car ride was pretty valuable.
At the time, I thought, well, it felt a little not uncomfortable, but it's like, come on, Dad. Like, he was 89. I knew at some point in the near future, his time on earth would be done. But man, after he passed away, just really being thankful for that. Yeah. 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 Cause I think that feeling of wanting one more conversation would have been harder. Yeah. When I got news that he had a heart attack, than it was, when Gina kind of helped me kind of refocus, like, wait a minute, you had a great conversation with him.
And even to be able to be there, right before, pretty special stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think most people will make a lot of excuses for not being somewhere. Like I noticed that a lot of times men in business or men at work will neglect their family a little bit in that way. And because of who knows what reasons, it's important that I go do this and I can't be away, especially in the stage right now. Like I get him little for a few years, right? And then never again. Right. And so, I think that, make an effort. Like if you guys wouldn't have made that flight, or taking the steps, like, valuable.
And I debated it. I was like, maybe I'll just go down later. It's, he's not conscious, he's not going to know I'm going to be there. But my mom was like, I think he waited for you, and,
it's pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
What, pivoting now over to kind of like leadership, just real quick, before we get you out of here, do you have like a leadership style that you kind of adopted or?
I think I don't know if it's a style, but I mentioned it earlier, like the importance of like getting out in the summer and just connecting and seeing, but that idea of just not being isolated in my office, like, and we're a small organization. We're not, we have 4 full-time staff, including me. But then in the summer we grow to like 50, with our summer staff, and just being out and being present, spending time, it's not unusual for me to maybe help clean up after a meal, just to probably really just to help people get out of there quicker. But I think it's important to like be in there. I joked with our maintenance director a few days ago that, it's good for me I miss the days when I used to stay up there, because when I'd stay in a room, I'd be like, because when the kids were little, we used to stay up there quite a bit more often. And I would see the things that, that's not, that toilet doesn't flush very well, or that outlet is broken, or, and just the value of like being hands-on, like it's a balance then, because I can't do the job and I can't like usurp the authority or respect of my, those who are working with me. But I also need to know what's going on and need to be present and just being able to relate to where people are in their different jobs. That's important to me.
Yeah, I could understand how that would be a hard balance. You don't want to feel like you're micromanaging people, but you also need to feel connected and a part of operations and what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a moving spectrum all the time.
There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah.
Did before we go, I want to get your insight a little bit about what you do for fun. Now I know that you hike. You like to hike. Have you completed all 46 Adirondacks?
I have. I did the 46 in 2018. I finished. But I got to tell you, it's not the textbook way to do it. I spent 20 some years doing it. Like I had started, I think I did a high peak because I thought it'd be fun and cool. And then maybe a little bit later that year, I went again with somebody else. I was like, oh, maybe I'll become a 46er. So I actually kind of had that as a goal, but then
really
kids
early on.
Yeah, early on. But then the kids came along and I just didn't, it takes a lot of commitment to drive up there and camp out and whatnot. So I kind of went on pause until the kids got older and they're old enough for me I dragged them up, a lot of peaks, not literally, but they came along. Gina came along, a lot of them, almost not every trip, but usually one of them would be like, I don't want to do this. So Gina would go do something else with them, like, spend the day in Lake Placid. But Mackenzie actually got her 46 after college, or at the end of college. So we're actually in the middle. It was during COVID, so she was still in school. But yeah, I enjoy being out there. It was never about getting peaks. It was always about like I love like that effort of climbing up a mountain, working hard, and then coming out on the peak and looking at the view. Like I'm so disappointed when it's a cloudy day where you can't see anything.
Yep.
But yeah, I still am out there. I had a chance to go up Whiteface a couple of weeks ago and cross country ski down the road, which was amazing. I think I'll do that again. But yeah, I don't know if I definitely like being outside. That's not my only, for fun thing. I like to read too, read books, and work on the house. That probably shouldn't be something you do for fun, but I enjoy projects around the house.
Yeah, it's probably something to do with the projects that your dad would do with you guys. And there's also something about like just the solace of quiet and working on a task and there's some meaning there.
And seeing it done. Like sometimes things I do in leadership, you don't always see a result, that's measurable. And so it's good therapy to do a project and see it be finished.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it's 47, right? 46.
46.
I didn't know that the 46 had a winter 46 until Dr. Vora came on and was talking about that.
Yeah.
And I've heard from a couple of people since who were talking to me about that episode and been like, boy, like Denali is a big deal. Mount Everest is a big deal. But like those 46 in the frigid winter of the Adirondacks seems so dangerous. And I was like, well, I don't really have any interest in doing that. So
I don't know. So in the latter half of my 46 as I was working through them, most of them were in the winter.
Wow.
There's a couple of guys and I that usually go winter camping and we'll do a peak. And so I started to get quite a few actually in the winter months. And I actually like that. I'm old enough to like my knees hurt and like, walking on rocks, like it really takes a beating. Whereas in the winter, it's kind of a cushy, and sometimes you can slide down, which is super nice, or ski down like I did the other week. But yeah, there's been some fatalities. I wouldn't hike alone in the winter. Like I feel like you need to be with people, but
yeah. Well, and we're talking top of Whiteface, boy, I think the last time I was on the top of Whiteface for skiing, I want to say that it was -40 at the peak.
I believe it.
Something like that. Like we actually had gone down a couple times and Patrick Harney was with us and he had like some
marks on his
from the cold, like some frostbite starting and I had some under my eyes and I was like, just from a couple of, I was like, nah.
It's time to go in where it's warm and
make sure my face doesn't fall off.
Yeah. So I've, I still do peaks, I'm not working on my winter 46 or anything like that, but I just enjoy being out there. I love hiking and I enjoy the beauty of winter. Like all seasons are beautiful, but
it's kind of hard to live around here and not enjoy it. So
you got it. So
otherwise you're just complaining the whole time.
Right. So my new goal, it's kind of a quasi goal. It's not really serious, but there's the 50 high points, which I think Dr. Vora did.
Yeah. One top in every state.
Yeah. See, I can't physically and financially and time, I can't do Alaska and, but I've thought, well, maybe my goal should be like the high points of every state this side of the Mississippi. Cause that seems pretty doable. Like I've already done Marcy, and, Mount, Graham, whatever the mountain is in North Carolina, but I feel like I'm already, moving along that. The first one we did though, officially as a family, was Florida. My son was stationed down there in the Army, and he was like 30 minutes away from it. Like, we got to go to this high point, which is not even in like the hill you're on. Like, it's just a little bump in the right. And you just walk around this little path, it's not a big deal, but
stick a big flag in it at the end.
Like, I did it. I did it. But yeah,
that's a cool goal.
Yeah. I feel like it's doable.
And then maybe, you never know after that.
I feel like goals should be
boy,
realistic.
those Rockies would be, start to get in the Rockies. That's not just, that's a pretty serious deal.
Much more serious than I think I could do.
What was I just going to say? Something about, I didn't realize that one of the 7 or a couple of the 7 are not that difficult.
Yeah.
For some reason in my mind, the 7 summits are like,
all like
because
Everest.
They're clumped in with Everest and Denali and is it Kilimanjaro one of those?
Yeah,
but Kilimanjaro is not that hard from what I understand.
It's pretty doable from what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, like you don't need oxygen or special.
Right, like kids do it.
Right.
Just like,
right. And I gotta believe like Australia probably is not.
Yeah, maybe that's the one that's actually the easy one. That's more like just a long hike straight up. Yeah. Maybe Kilimanjaro's harder.
That was very enjoyable to listen to. Dr. Vora's experiences.
Yeah, I can't wait to have him back on and talk more because he's also done the South American. What is that called? The something.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but anyway, no, I can't wait to have him back on because, man, and plus just full of wisdom.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the parallels between, he's a physician.
Right.
And basically a professional climber.
Right.
And then all of the interlaying messaging there is like, nobody gets to the mountaintop alone. It's like, that's true.
That's true. Yeah. There's some good wisdom there. Yeah.
What do you have anything from your notes you want to touch on?
Actually, I think we covered it all. I just
Awesome. Well, good. I mean, what's next for you besides your climbing the what is it, east of the Mississippi? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's a very loose goal.
Next time you come on, it better be done.
As far as I think a big focus for me right now is camp and kind of moving us, continuing to kind of grow as an organization, not necessarily use-wise or numbers, but just health-wise. I'm excited. We've got a really solid board of directors and we're doing some strategic planning in actually in March. And so I'm really excited about that, kind of see where that takes us as an organization. Personally, I think it's just, I get excited thinking, where will I be in 15 years? I don't know. I might be at Beaver Camp, but I might be doing something different. I don't know. Just kind of keeping my hands open to wherever God might be leading me. Yeah.
It's a good way to live.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the only way to live.
Well, awesome. I mean, I don't want to hold you all day. We could talk forever, but I appreciate you coming in. This is really great.
Well, thanks for hosting or letting me be hosting this and letting me on it, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
No, see, told you it's not. Well, I'd love to have you on again.
Awesome.
That would be really great. Yeah. But I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right, folks. That's it. We'll see you on the next one.